Hi, so happy you're here.
Me too. I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm in California, so it's been difficult to figure out the Mountain Daylight Time and the Pacific Time.
No worries at all.
Awesome. Well, we're so happy to have you. I know that I have a couple of questions, and our viewers have questions for you as well. I'll go ahead
Okay,
and start some of my own, and then if you're watching and you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments, and we'll read through them and make sure those get answered. So my first
perfect.
question for is what got you started in family history and specifically journaling with family history?
Well, it's funny because 5 years ago, right now, is kind of my anniversary because I was one of those women that was in a conference with Wendy Watson Nelson, and she talked about the power of family history and the power of what 21 days can do. And honestly, I had no desire to do family history until she said those things. And I thought, wait, she seems pretty sure that this is a really powerful work. And I know that I need to do it. I just didn't know where to start. And so I took her challenge, not knowing anything. I had no idea what I knew that Family Search had an app and a site, but that's about all I knew. And so I just was really prayerful about what to do. And those 21 days changed my life. And here we are 5 years later, and I'm a huge advocate of family history. I love journaling. I love every facet of family history I've learned to love, even though I said I was never a family historian. Here I am. So that's how I started. It was all because of Wendy Watson Nelson.
That's so awesome, and I love hearing your story. And it's so great that you're celebrating that as well. And I know you journal a little bit differently than most people. We would love to hear about your style of journaling for you.
Well, I have always been a journaler, and I love to journal. I love to write, pen on paper, pencil on paper, but I also love to do things creatively. And I love to use words and colors and photos, and some could call that scrapbooking. Some could call that doodling or collaging or whatever you want to call it. But I basically anything to get my feelings out and my story out is how I journal. And now that we're in the digital age, I do a lot of digital journaling, meaning that sometimes I will actually write in with my Apple Pencil on my iPad, and I journal that way in different apps. But one of my favorites right now is an app called Prism. It's Prixm, and it's actually built in a storyline, and you have the option to journal personally, privately, or publicly with photo, audio, video, and text. And so I actually go on Prism every day and I journal whatever comes to my mind. There are actually little prompts if I ever don't know what to journal about. And disclaimer, it's one of my apps, and so I love it. But we created it because I am such an avid believer of the power of journaling, and I hadn't found an app that I loved yet, and Prism is everything I wanted. So that's how I'm doing it right now. But I still also do the creativity and the scrapbooking and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've used Prism before, and that's what I use as my journaling too. It's so
Awesome.
great that it's like you can have it be a public journal, but also a journal. And I'm so grateful that people can use that as a form of journaling. So we have a question: is posting to Instagram a worthy effort if we choose story there?
Okay, you cut out for just a little bit. Will you say that again?
Yes, sorry. Is daily posting to Instagram a worthy effort if we choose to record our story?
That is such a good question. Whoever that was, good thinking. You know, I really feel like Instagram is an awesome place to connect. A lot of us get on every day. We like to keep in contact with friends and people far away and family. But my question is, what if something happened to Instagram? If you're just putting all of your memories on Instagram, for me personally, my story is way too valuable to just put it on Instagram. So actually, I like to do a version of digital, and I also like to do a version of actual, like a book, a journal, or a scrapbook type of thing, because they're my records, right? And they're really important to me. And I do feel like I need to have them in different places, not just one place. So if you're putting all of your stories on Instagram, I mean, all of your story there, then I would consider doing someplace else, whether you're writing in a journal or you are doing it on, maybe you've got your photos on a hard drive or something. But think about it too. If you just have a photo and no information with it, that's only part of your story. So I think it's good when we talk about telling our story, it's important to put your feelings with the photos. And sometimes on Instagram, we don't put all of our feelings, right? Because it is so public. And so again, that's why I love Prism, because sometimes I'll just pour my heart out into a post that I know is going to be safe. And if I want it to be personal and nobody else sees it, then that's my option, right? And so then with Prism, you can do different things. Like we don't have it yet, but you can put it into a book, or you can export it into Family Search or something like that. So I would say have a few different options, because your story is so valuable. Your story matters. Mm-hmm. Good question.
We had another person who suggested chapbook, and I think that's also a super fun way to journal. I have another question.
Okay.
What are suggestions or examples of how to edit him over unpleasant aspects of your personality? For example, like or divorce.
That is a really good question too. Again, our stories need to be told. And what I have found is in the hard things, there is healing when we tell our story. But sometimes we're not ready to tell the story yet, right? I've got some stories in my family line that we didn't know for a couple generations that some things happened. And while they were painful, through the generations, as they came out, there's more love and forgiveness and gratitude as the story is being told. And so my suggestion is to still tell the story, but to be really considerate about how you tell the story and who to tell the story. Because I know some people are not ready yet for that story, but there is power in telling your story. And for me personally, the healing happens when I write it down or when I document it. And maybe I'm not going to share that story with everybody right away, but when I do share my hard things, then the healing can happen. But if we don't share it, then how can it happen, right? The healing isn't going to happen if we keep it inside. So I'm a firm believer of sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly, because nobody has a perfect story, right? We all have things that we struggle with or that are hard. And I really do believe that when we bring light to our story, that's when healing can happen.
Absolutely. I remember the moment where I felt closest to my grandmother was when she shared with me that she struggled with something that I struggle with too. And it was through that sharing of our hard parts of our stories that we really felt connection, and that we knew, like, when we have hard days, I turn to my grandma and I talk to my grandma about it. And so I think it's so awesome that you use the hard aspects of the story to connect with other people and help heal more.
That's huge, isn't it? And that, like you said, that is a connection. And this whole experiment is a connection experiment, right? And so when we can connect with that vulnerability and say, I've gone through these hard things, guarantee there's going to be someone out there that needs to hear your story. And there's healing for you and the people that hear your story as well. So I love that, Katie. That's awesome.
So I have another question for you. Okay. What do you hope that your posterity gets from your journal?
That is a really good question. I think the biggest thing that I would love for them to know I think it's important to, when we're telling our story, to put our personality in there and to not make it so sterile or so perfect that my grandkids or my great great grandkids aren't going to know who I was. I'm imperfect. I'm really silly sometimes. I make mistakes, but I love to laugh. I love life and I love my family. And the thing, going back to what you said about learning from your grandparents, I've got several of my great great grandmothers that I really connect with because they told the hard parts of their story. But then they didn't stop there. They didn't stop at the hard part. They shared how they overcame it. And that's where I connected, is to say, wait, she went through the same thing that I'm going through, but she overcame it through this. So I hope that my posterity will learn it's okay to go through hard things. We all do. But I hope that they learn that I tried really hard to overcome things with joy and gratitude and love. And some days were harder than other days. And some days I didn't feel like I could get out of bed. But to be able to really share my heart with them so they know, and they can, sometimes I when I read stories of my great grandma, I try to imagine what she was like her facial expressions or how she laughed or things like that. And even though we can't bottle that up in a writing, think about the technology that we have. I want to record my voice. I want to, if I can do video, I want my grandkids and my great grandkids to see my face and my big eyes and know, wow, Grandma Rhonna had huge eyes or she had a funny laugh or something like that, you know? I think for me, that's really important. I want them to feel who I am. And hopefully they'll be able to feel my love for them when they read my story or listen to my story.
Yes, I love that. I had an ancestor connected with her a lot, and she, her son journaled about how mother had this bubbly nature. And it was so cool for me to connect to my grandma because of this bubbly nature that we shared. And it was because he journaled about it and that I was able to understand her personality.
Exactly. And if we don't say those things, who's going to say it, right? I mean, I guess my kids will say, oh, mom had a bubbly nature or something like that. But we get to tell our story too. So I think it's important to do that.
Mm-hmm. So we have another question for you. How did journaling lead you to Light Keepers?
Ooh, that's such a good story. Okay. So let's see, let's go back to about 3 years ago. And journaling, when I journal what I'm going through, I had about 11 years of being really, really sick I was in bed for a lot of those years and I would push through. I still was trying to bring up my kids and not be the mom that was in bed all the time sick, but it was really, really challenging. And I journaled through all of that. I journaled through the hard days and the depression and I can't get out of bed because my body was in so much pain and I was so sick. And as I was journaling that, I started to, like I said before, I started to heal. And through scriptures and through prayer and through different things that came to me, I started to feel the light of my story, even in the hard times. And so this concept of what it felt like to tell my story was kind of being built inside of me. And like I said, 5 years ago when I started getting into family history, I started to see some things that didn't really resonate with me. Like when people would say family history is boring, I was like, no, it's not. And I started to see these little things that I thought, ooh, this needs to change. We need to put the light and the joy and the importance on family records and on my story. And so something came out of that called Light Keepers. And when I was serving as a missionary, there were 3 others that I was serving with. And as we started talking about it, it just started to resonate and we started to have all of these ideas. And what if we could grab all of these women together and we had a wonderful experience together where you actually felt the light of family history, and then sent them off to their own homes, and then they could experience it with their families. And so that was 3 years ago. We wrote a workbook to go with it so that it was an ongoing experience. And Katie, you came to our last, we've done it 3 years now. And now you can watch it online for free, which is really cool. You don't get the workbook, but you do get the worksheets. And our whole hope in this is that as you are doing these little tiny bits of family history, that you will feel the light and you will start to keep the light of your family so that it can go from generation to generation. However you choose to do that. If you're a photo person or a journaling person or a clean up the records person, you know, every person is needed, and you keep the light. And so every single person, no matter what age we are, Katie, look at you. I mean, you're awesome to even see the importance of this. I wish I would have done this at your age, but I look back and I was doing it my own way. And so now we get to share the different ways of doing family history and being the keepers of the light in our family for generations to come.
I love that. We have a quick question about light keepers. A viewer is wondering how we can find it.
How you can what? You just cut out, sorry.
Find it online.
Okay, so if you go to rootstech.org, it's on the front page where it says Light Keepers, or you can go to lightkeepers.org. No, sorry, rootstech.org/lightkeepers-online. If somebody can put that in there, I can't do that right now. I'll put the link in my profile as well, but there are 4 different sections that you can go at your own pace, perfect for this 21-day experiment, right? And you can go in and you can stop, you can pause, you can go back, and you can learn the different things. We share a few different techniques on the Family Search app. And then also it's just sharing our stories and sharing how we have connected, discovered, strengthened, and gathered our family, past, present, and future. So for all ages, it's really fun.
Yeah, I was able to attend.
Thank you for putting that in there.
I was able to attend this past year, and it was amazing to see young women with their mothers and grandmothers there. That for one of these days, you'll take the opportunity to be enlightened by light keepers. Do you have any comments?
That'd be
or
awesome.
questions? Do you have any comments for the viewers?
Number one, my biggest thing that I always try to tell people is you can do it. Because I used to think, oh, only the professionals can do it, or I'm going to mess something up. Just throw that right out the window and just say, okay, what's my part? What do I feel passionate about? Do you love photos? Do you love video? Do you love to connect with, like do interviews? Whatever you love to do, I believe that that's what you get to do. You don't have to do it all. That's the other thing. You don't have to do all of the family history. Do the parts that resonate and the parts that make you feel like you're alive. I love photos. I think it's so much fun to look into the eyes of my ancestors and see similarities and connect through photos and look at, like, you know, what kind of hat they wore, or look at the horse they were riding, or look at my grandma's glasses, or things like that. So for me, I started with the photos because that's where I connected. But I realized I've been doing family history my whole life. And actually everybody's doing family history right now. You are living your family history because it's your living history, right? So just jump in and do it. It's awesome.
Absolutely. And I love what you said about how to not feel overwhelmed. Because I know that sometimes when you're starting family history, you feel like there are just so many tasks to do. And I love that you mentioned that if you just pinpoint one task that you have a passion for, that it helps unlock the door for many other ways to make family history fun and to make it enjoyable. We're so grateful to have you on here to interview and to share your spirit with us and the happiness and passion you have for family history.
Thank you, Katie. You're awesome. I love you.
Thank you. So we are excited for our next coming interviews. You can check out when they'll be by looking at our story. And we'll see you guys all again soon. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.